Bonsoir, mesdames and messieurs. Welcome back from the world premiere of the Paper Tigers here at Fantasia 2020 Virtual Film Festival. Please welcome the film's director, Tran, the Paper Tigers themselves. Everyone say hello.
Salut.
Hey,
hello.
Hello.
What's up?
What's up, guys?
Now, as I understand it, you guys, this was your first screening of the movie, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So I guess you like,
What's
Carter's
up?
in the house. Carter's in the house. Carter's in the house. Watch your mouth. Seafood Carter.
So let me just start with this. I mean, just talking with you guys before. I mean, there's a real sense of friendship, a real sense of camaraderie here, and this is very unusual for a lot of martial arts movies these days because most martial arts movies are even today are about like getting revenge because somebody got killed or fighting in some kind of underground tournament or like Undisputed where you're fighting in a prison tournament. There's very rarely are these movies about friendship, about the ties that bind and all that. Was that a difficult thing for people to kind of wrap their head around when you were pitching this movie?
Is that for me? Whose question is that?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having us. What up, Fantasia? Yeah, I mean, I think it was just started from a place where we felt, what did we love about martial arts and what kind of spoke true to our experience, And I think that's what it was. It was the camaraderie and the friendships that we had. It was the martial arts and learning how to beat someone's ass, but it was also, the friends that you could join in beating the other person's ass with. That's just as important and it's just as valuable. So, a lot of friendships. I think that was also just kind of like something that was common. It didn't have to be necessarily martial arts. I think we were talking about different experiences that we would have with people and when we had a similar a hobby or a passion, people that we wouldn't normally be friends with, but yet this hobby or passion brought us together. And I thought that was just a really interesting glue that could bring people together like that.
And I mean, this is a movie that's also very true to martial arts. You, of course, are most of you guys, I think, safe to say that you've all trained in martial arts, if I'm not mistaken. And a lot of the tenets of martial arts are really what the story, play into the story. Again, was and this kind of goes against what a lot of martial arts movies are these days. Was that important for you to make sure that this is a movie that it really is a movie made kind of by martial artists for martial arts? And was that important for you to get those things in there?
Yeah, I think the details for one is certainly what we wanted to get at, but also the spirit. But also to kind of look at it a little bit more without rose-colored glasses. I think it's, being a story about these guys that are in middle age and far away from the values that they learned as kids. Life gets in the way. So we kind of look at it in a different way. Maybe we're more cynical and a little more jaded and a little more grounded about it. And I think the important thing was, also realizing the values that we had maybe when we were younger. Maybe we didn't value it for the right reasons. And, we hear the lesson, it sounds cool, and you're like kind of repeat it like a parrot, but it's not until you're older and you go through these things and you kind of realize that it is, what it is for the real reasons. I think it was Ron that was talking to then we were talking about, like, as these guys, the Tigers kind of face all these beat downs later on in life. He was like, yeah, it felt like it's karma. Like Ron was kind of like latching on to that because it was almost like, yeah, when you're younger and you're beating everyone up, it's fun. It's fun when you're winning, but when it comes back to you, it's a different thing. And then you start to realize those lessons and why those lessons are taught. So yeah, I mean, Ron, you can chime in on that.
Yeah, for me, like when I first got the script, what drew me to it was, this is just old school, and one of the main things was this was a dysfunctional family, and there was this brotherhood that we all had, and the baggage that we all had with each other, and that's I just I got glued to the script. It was, you know, it was actually one of the producers, and he told me he raved about Bao, and then he's like, you got to read the script. And I'm like, okay, yeah. And when I read it, I was like, dude, I'm down. I'm like, this is like, yeah. It was, UG. And, but no, I think it's a beautiful, heartfelt story, you know, when we go along the journey with these three guys, and like, you know, what they're each, you know, been going through, and how they've regained their bonds of brotherhood. So, yeah.
And for you guys, I mean, was this a situation where did you guys know each other going into this, or did you just cast everybody through? I mean, I guess not, because Ron was just talking about how he had.
Yeah, for me, like it's a great experience. You know, you guys can chime in too. Like with Bao, like he set up a rehearsals like 1 week in LA about a week and a half, 2 weeks before we started shooting, and that was really, really important because you know, we set up like, you know, kind of like play rehearsals, and we got to improv, and we got to play around, and we all three of us just connected. And, you know, we continued that, you know, when were in Seattle, and, you know, anytime it was our days off or something. I mean, we just, the synergy was awesome. You know, I love all these guys. And
that is really one of the things that is so great about the movie, is the interplay between the three of you guys. Mm-hmm. And we really do get this sense, not just that you've known each other, but that you like each other too. And you know, so let's I'm just curious, you know, talk about the casting process and finding all these guys. I mean, you know, Mykel rather, I know, has, you know, made some films before. He's known for Undisputed 3, but talk about getting everybody else involved.
Yeah, you know, it was just kind of a whole process. Basically everyone met for the first time. I think between Alain and Ron, you guys had worked on a commercial or a video game previously, right? Maybe for a couple of days.
Yeah,
Battlefield 4. That's right.
Right. But outside of that, you know, everybody just kind of like, this came through casting. Our amazing casting director, Yuan, just kind of like rounded up all these wonderful names for us to think about and consider. So, I mean, that was basically, you know, when you're doing indie, do the project for the right reasons, I think it got everyone on the same page, and we put the ego aside, and we just, like, you know, got to work. But yeah, I mean, I can let the guys speak for themselves, but for Matt in particular, you know, we had talked a couple of years ago, right, Matt, about this, because we had seen your show, Enter the Dojo, on the web, and if you haven't seen it, please see it.
It's awesome.
It's awesome.
So good.
But we just watched it as fans, and I think we just called you up because we had a mutual friend, and we just like chatted, and the project wasn't really at a point where we could, you know, really make offers or schedules or anything like that. But we were just, you know, big fans and just want to chat with him and see where we're at. And it finally came around maybe a couple of years later, and it came to a point where we could talk to him about the project, and thankfully he came on board. So yeah.
Yeah, they said, hey, we got a script with another sleeveless gi wearing asshole.
In other words, don't change. Just come to set. Wear what you got.
I just want to throw in a lot of that. I think was created because of the efforts of everyone behind the scenes. Like, I don't think I've ever been a part of a project that was so that felt so family infused. Like, being an African American male, and I guess now the world kind of is getting a feel of what it's kind of like for her. And being kind of the only African American who, with the privilege of being part of this wonderful production, as far as like as a major cast player, it was like, well, it was the most humbling experience I've had as an artist, because from the time I met Ron at Ron's apartment for these new age kind of meetings, it's just been, I was just surrounded by so much love and support. Like, it was just so much. Most of the time you walk into a room, it's just highly competitive. Acting is one job, you know what I mean? And like, there's only so much screen time, and like, there's, you know, the story's being told, and everyone has a life, and like, so normally people get caught up in all that, and no one's like calling you at the middle of the night going, let's go out and eat, and working through moments, and like it was just amazing. It's really, I was leaving my family to come to Seattle. And normally that it breaks my heart a little bit because I have a beautiful girl and son. But as soon as I got to Seattle, it broke my heart to leave. Like it was just like too kind of family type. It was like ending, and we could see it ending. And we were like trying not to go to sleep, like kids who try to stay up late so the slumber party doesn't end. It's like it was really a tribute to Bao and Yuji and the producers in this one wonderful experience. If independent filmmaking has this kind of heart, big studio films are in trouble because it just feeds the artist freedom to be honest in every moment, because there's just nothing there but that kind of comfort. And it was like that every single day, which was just mind-blowing for me. I know that I have very dear friends on this frame, and I know that if I called any one of these faces you see and was like, I need you, they're coming. You know what I mean? And that's what you get when you have a real life experience like we've had. So I think that the world, when they see it, privy few who have now. Look, I had 8 people in my house, all age ranges, and they just were like, my daughter don't sit down for nothing. And she was like, Dad, I think it's the best. It's the best one.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's something. So like, I'm just humbled and honored by the whole experience, and I want people to get from this, like, it is important for an artist to try and honor the words on the page and honor the moments that have been written and given to them and trusted in them, as it is for the people who are creating the playground and the life for these artists to live in. Like, that has, people don't really think about that. They fly you down to Prague and they think because you're in Prague that magic can happen. I'm thinking they're just missing it. Like, if you can get the kind of feeling these people were able to create for us, I mean, if you weren't down with some love and like feeling it, then you was out. Like, you was a straight outsider. Like, you couldn't even be part of like serving the chips over in this spot without having some, like, real love in your heart. And so it was like, it's a beautiful experience for me. And now I see what it's become. I'm just humbled by the whole thing. Just humbled.
Beautiful. Yeah. And, I think it's also really interesting, and I'm sure this wasn't by design, but all 3 of you guys, the Paper Tigers, you're also directors.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
Mykel, you directed some features.
Oh, I know.
Oh,
I actually,
you should have said that every day, Matt, every day. I have to say something. It's one of those things where every day we would show up, because like Ron and Mykel and Bao have said, is that we went to work. We really were passionate about the project because everyone around us was very passionate about it, but that we believed in the project. And so we all just, every single day, every morning, we would show up to set and be like, listen, Bao, we're thinking, what if we got like 2 minutes? Yeah, you got 2 minutes, and we would ration it out. I remember Mykel would be like, "That's not a fight. We should just let that go. We should just let that go. We'll pick the fight for this one." But the fact that Bao was so gracious enough to allow us to have that, that collaborative spirit, I think really. It definitely shows on screen. I think it's one of those things that we really want to be proud of, but also the fact that Bao would lay down the hammer and be like, nope, we're doing it this way. And we would be like, all right, cool. Let's do that. But again, it was, as we're actors, but at the end of the day, we're storytellers too. And whenever we're looking for the truth in each script, you have to be very opinionated about something, or you have to have really strong beliefs, or else you'll just flounder. I think I learned a lot from just being around Ron, who has had an illustrious career, and just spending time with him and absorbing a lot of that experience and just being open to it. I think that's the thing that made this experience for me really fun as a filmmaker, as a director, but more importantly as an actor and a storyteller, is that you know, it's everyone around you you felt safe to voice your opinion without being, you know, either undercut or, like Mykel said, it didn't have that sort of experience of like competitiveness. It was more for the story and how do we serve the story best. So, you know, in essence, that's what that experience was like as a director and as an actor on this project.
That was so funny. He's like, yes, I know. No,
yeah,
kind of like piggyback what everybody else is saying. I think, you know, I think Bao, it was just wonderful the way Bao worked, because for us, he encouraged the collaboration and you know, the Three Tigers, you know, these guys are just beautiful. Because, you know, I've been on sets before where you just say like, oh, yo, you want to go for this scene? Like, no, I'm good. And you're just like, okay, all right, cool. All right. It's going to be that kind of shoot, you know? But then this one, as soon as I ask someone or something, everyone's like, yeah, man, what time? You know, boom, boom, let's go eat. Let's bring our scripts. And because we all loved the screenplay and we all want to make sure that we could bring in our all. And then if there's anything that we had questions about, then we could bring it to Bao too, you know? And the great thing about Bao, I mean, before he says, no, this is the way, he actually is always like, and I'm sure all of us went up to him and he's just like, yeah, well, you know, let's play with it. You know, let's show me what you guys done and blah, blah, blah. And then he'll like finesse and do stuff. But the thing is, he allowed us to play and, you know, he's a true actor's director and he's, you know, watching us with also his vision and he's just guiding us. And yeah, it was a beautiful process.
And talking about the screenplay, this film was part of the Frontiers film, which is Fantasia's film production market. This was a project that came through Frontiers. So talk a little bit about that experience and what, you know, do you feel like it came out of it a better movie from Frontiers?
Yeah, we were fortunate to be part of Frontiers, I guess, three of their 4 stages. There's the co-production market that's actually at Montreal during Fantasia. The other one is the co-production, the packaging market our year was at Amsterdam. And then we were able to be at Cannes twice, once virtually this year, to present our proof of concept. And then I guess kind of a rough cut or rough scenes this year. So, you know, it's almost like this incubator that has been with us through all these different stages when, you know, it was just an itty bitty idea. And then when it became, you know, we had some footage, but not all of it. And then when we had all the footage. So just to have Frontiers be a part of that, it almost feels like a coming home to world premiere at Fantasia. So that's been the blessing there. I think what it had given us is almost like just a room and freedom to know that genre film was welcome and genre film was celebrated, and there was possibility for genre film to be seen and done well. And, you know, I think what we didn't want to do is like do something that was maybe by the numbers or something that was very typical when you hear kung fu movie. You know, I think we all have ideas about what that might mean, but, you know, we definitely wanted to kind of bring with it something that was, you know, something from our heart to be able to do that. So I think Frontiers kind of gave us that platform and gave us the ability also to see other genre filmmakers, horror filmmakers, sci-fi filmmakers who would, you know, Cursive Audrey Earnshaw was part of our project and world premiering here at Fantasia as well. So, you know, we all saw each other come up together, and it's just cool just to see our class come out with all these different films, graduating class with different films. And it's just been really cool. And we've been, you know, shoulders to cry on for each other and, you know, a listening ear and, you know, a guiding hand. So we've all looked out for each other. So that's been really invaluable.
Ken, now is the time we get to you. You've been waiting patiently. You can't have a martial arts movie without martial arts. And one of the great things about this particular movie is, I mean, first off, the choreography is first rate. I mean, it's terrific all the way, but it's also feels very grounded. You know, nobody's making these like crazy moves that you can only accomplish with wires and everything. This is like real kung fu. So let's talk a bit about the process, first off, of just coming up with the choreography, working on the fight scenes. Was this also, I guess this is partly a question for Bao, was this a situation, did you write the fights in, or did you just go and they fight when you were writing the fight? Because some do.
Yeah, I think it depended. I think if there was a story point, I would make sure it was in the script, but just knowing that we would design and get it on its feet anyways, I think that kind of saved time for me writing it. But I think as long as we had the story beats, that was kind of the most important for, you know, an action director with Ken coming in to understand, you know, here's the map, and then, you know, start cooking from there.
So, but let's talk about coming up with the fights and the choreography, and doing so on a low budget and with not a heck of a lot of time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, like echoing what everybody said, the screenplay was so strong, and it really kind of served my process by having all those story beats to hit. So I already knew the destination of each segment and how to get there. And I kind of would work with the stunt coordinators, Carrie and Sam, and we would kind of design around like kind of these big beat moments, and kind of fill out what the tempo was going to be like, all serving the story. So each of the characters has their own elements, has their own kind of like basically their own style of fighting and their approach to the action, their approach to the conflict. So we created everything very specifically tailored to the character. But the interesting thing was I didn't have much time with any of the actors at all. I mean, part of the rehearsal session a week prior to the to actually flying up to Seattle was shared with some rehearsal time, and mostly being filled in by fundamental training, just to get an idea of how everybody's body was moving, if it would match some of the ideas that we were kind of designing on the side. So we were constantly kind of tweaking things. Even on shoot days, I would pull Alain aside and say, hey, let's do this hand exchange and see how that rhythm is feeling with you. Or I pull Mykel aside and say, how do you feel about, you know, this type of choke? Or how do you feel about this drop knee shoot movement or whatever? Same with, you know, Ron would be working with Carrie on the side with the Pu Dao. So we were constantly like finding any little free time we had on set was picking up a weapon or kind of crossing hands and just kind of getting the feel for the rhythm, so that by the time we got onto the set, we had a better idea. Although, you know, no matter how well you planned or, you know, how much you thought you had everything kind of in, you know, in the bag and written down and locked and stamped, but by the time you got to the set, you were always troubleshooting, you know, just the smallest nuances. And it was a challenge, but, you know, the grit and the will that these guys brought, I mean, it definitely shows in the final performance. So largely due to, you know, all the effort they put in. So, you know.
And let's talk too about the final fight in the film, Alain. And you know, this is something that's got to be on one part. You know, it's the final fight, and it's got to deliver. But it's also, from a character standpoint, it's a fight that, you know, the entire movie is leading towards. And so let's talk about putting that together and working with Alain to make that final fight really, you know, not just something special, but also from a character standpoint, you know, because this is Alain's character is really kind of coming back into his own through this fight. And that's one of the great things about it, one of the remarkable things about it. And I have to say too, it's one of the, you know, Fantasia has the best audiences anywhere in the world. They really do. And they love, you know, if a movie is working for them, it is going like gangbusters. And that's one of the things that I'm kind of sad that we weren't able to share this with an actual audience, because I know they would have exploded. I know they would have gone nuts. And so let's talk about that final fight and making that thing so special.
Well, again, you know, it was all according to how well, you know, the story was kind of laid out for us, and we knew what beats we wanted to hit. But, you know, truth be told, Alain and I were coming up with some of the movements on the rooftop literally minutes before some of the, you know, the shots where we would lock down some of the movements like before we were like fully secured with the angle. So it was a constant work in progress, but we were always just trying to hit these beats, always trying to accommodate like the whatever camera, you know, whatever camera setups we were limited to, because of, you know, we only had one main camera operator, Sean, cinematographer. So it was a constant work in progress that, you know, we were, you know, thinking back to it right now, it's pretty like
and this thunderstorm.
Yeah, and a thunderstorm. Right. I mean, like
we had one of the largest thunderstorms I think in 10 years roll through, because we're on a rooftop and we have to clear off, and it rolled in, and best laid plans, and then kind of took about 4 hours. I think we were out of commission for about 4 hours. And we're limited on, when the sun comes up, you're done, right? It's like, there's no overtime, there's no nothing. So when the sun comes up at night, it's like, it's your time is up. So we were trying to figure out, how to do that with the thunderstorm as well. So, I mean, kudos to everyone just pulling together on that.
Yeah, there was a great sense of trust. I mean, like Ken was like just awesome as far as like he just always had a calm demeanor, and giving another shout out to Sam and Carrie. They also I've worked with them in the past too, and it's just like part of the bonding was the rehearsals. So we love like working out with the guys, with Ken and Sam and Carrie and stuff. And for me, it's like that's why I think when we were on set, there was this trust that was built up, and and Alain and Ken could just change things. And sometimes, we would do it. And Mykel, it was just, but there's always that sense of trust. And there was always that ground, like that calmness. And that's why we had so much fun on it.
Yeah. And in that instance where we were shut down for 4 hours, I just remember looking at Kenny going, are we gonna finish this thing? But just like what Ron said, I was joking, but at the same time, I knew that we would be able to get it done. There was this sense of like, it's going to be tight, but I know, I don't know if you remember this, Ken, but like I would go, we would just look at each other and go, okay, we have 2 hours. We were short 4 hours now. We have 2 hours to get this thing. Let's just go at it. And I think that sort of, like Ron said, that trust that was built up, all those extra days we would work together, I think really pays off in that instance. But to your question about that, those specific story beats, it was a lot of discussion about, at least between Ken and I and Bao, as to what those rounds would look like. And I remember that last round being we had the framework for it, and we were still going, is it going to be a throw, or is it going to be this, or how are we going to execute A, B, and C, and D? So it was a master class in fight choreography and improvisation at the same time. So it was a fun experience to be a part of.
And we've got questions on our chat, and another question about the choreography from Bryce, saying the choreography was so beautiful in this film, literally every character. What was the hardest part of capturing all that art on camera? And I'd say this is a question for everybody.
Trying not to laugh when I did my fight scenes with
Matt. Yo, all those things with Matt, man, like it was so good.
Trying not to laugh, man.
That definitely was a challenge. Oh man,
I don't think my kids have ever seen me take a whooping like that. They were just stunned. They were like, "So you're just gonna take this beating, right?"
Serve the story.
Man, gonna work. That's all.
I felt so bad during the choreography with Mykel. Oops, go ahead, Mykel.
What'd you say, Matt?
I just saying I feel lucky for being the guy that gets to sort of just fly in, make some jokes, beat all three of the guys, and then leave.
And then you put out your hand like, yeah. That's it. I'm like,
yeah, and then shake your hand like, good job anyway, guys.
So good.
And that is one of the interesting things about Matt's character. He's such, obviously such an asshole throughout most of the movie, but then towards the end, no, he's, he really does take this as seriously as these guys do. There's a dimension to him that, again, there's no typical bad guy in this, and that's one of the great things about it. I mean, there was that a very specific thing that you wanted to make sure that you wanted to get through, that there really is kind of no bad guys here in a sense. I mean, even Ken's character, he's not, yes, he's the villain, but he's somebody who is respectful of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned it at the top, it's a little bit like a family. It's a little kind of dysfunctional family. Maybe there's the black sheep over there and, kind of the cousin that's always the odd one there, on the other side. So that's definitely something that we wanted to do. I didn't know it was going to look like this, but because all the actors just kind of came at it truthfully from their own perspective, and it just kind of became this great mosaic, right? So I think there's a similar thing, and then I'd even pull back to when the younger actors, when we did improv. So I think there's Yoshi, Peter, and Guy, and Mark, who are the younger counterparts, and we did improv with them. And I did the same improv actually with both groups, and it was funny because they kind of mapped out very similarly what happened. And the improv was that Danny and Carter are about to fight Saturday night, but it's actually Friday night, and you're back in high school. This is Friday night, and Tigers, you're at the McDonald's, and Carter comes in unbeknownst to you and orders a hamburger, and then you both have to sit on opposite sides of this McDonald's, and just like they're just jabbering back and forth, talking smack. And I swear, the young group, this happened 2 years apart. The improvs were almost super similar in terms of the way they treated Carter and the way Carter kind of pushed back. And it was just what came away from that is like Carter wants to be part of them. Like he just wants to be a part of them. He can't, but he wants to be the fourth Tiger. And he wants, in some way, he just still wants to be included. So to be like the insult or the punching bag or the dummy at that time is good enough for him in a way, because he gets to still be in the conversation with these three Tigers. So yeah, I mean, that was kind of like what I saw kind of start crystallize in front of my eyes, and I just let it run because they were just kind of running with it.
And I'll tell you, Carter, you did such a nice job with that my wife at one point, when we banged old boy, she looked at me, she's like, go get Carter. Y'all should go get him. He can fight it. You and that dude should not. Y'all should go get Carter. Hold up. Wait a minute. She straight looked me in the face and was like, you and Alain should just go get Carter. And then jump and fight it.
I think I do remember giving somebody, maybe Bao or somebody, a little bit of crap on shooting that last scene where I like just translate that note for them, and I'm like, well, good luck, guys. But that is also what I liked about that did also ring true for me as Carter, because he had the opportunity to face him before in the story and chickened out, and in a way, because the Tigers are willing to go to what is surely a life and death situation, a life and death match. That's kind of how another way that they gain Carter's respect. So I do like that in the script there is that moment where he sort of concedes that their willingness to go to a place where they're unmatched they're unevenly matched and possibly going to die, that he has respect for them. So that was kind of a nice, another nice thing about the story, the screenplay that I really like.
And Bao, you touched upon this. How did you find? I have a question for Mark about the young casting, the young versions of everyone. Where did you find these guys, and was that done? Was that all shot before? Was that shot after you done everything else?
Yeah, I mean, we straight up we kind of did a martial arts version of Boyhood, because we had no idea what the adult versions were going to be. We had some crowdfunding, and we just said, let's just shoot a part of it and try to get the ball rolling so that we can find more supporters and more production partners to shoot the rest. So it was definitely kind of a stab in the dark just to kind of make it happen. But at that time we just said, these are the cast we want. Let's look for the cast that makes sense for these young parts. And then come what may, we don't know what the future looks like, or we don't know what the future actors will look like, but hopefully all the chips will match up. So that's what we kind of decided to do, and just kind of threw it to Lady Luck on that one. But yeah, I think it just, at the end of the day, it's just find the best actor for the best role. And then if you kind of keep doing that for each of the parts, hopefully it all kind of come together. So the younger parts, they just all kind of came with that swag, and obviously, super talented and the hyper physical abilities, all of them. It just kind of like gave that great contrast to, I mean, look at Alain. Look at Alain. Look how far that contrast is.
Man.
And I've Ron, did you go from this to Mulan, or did you go from Mulan to this?
No, I went from Mulan to this, and then like Bao, like the week, like as we talked about, he wanted me to gain weight and all this stuff. So I was eating like crazy, and whatever. And
Oh
then,
yeah, you were eating like
Yeah,
crazy
you
for
was
sure.
definitely.
that was what I got to Seattle. But I was eating even more.
Yeah,
Well, because during that week we had the rehearsal. But I was just like,
I don't think you made $1 on this one.
no, because during that rehearsal, Val was like,
$1 went home.
Val was like, you're not, Ron, you're not fat enough. I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? I got this belly like right here. It's like, no, but your arms, I need you to be fat. And, just going, all right, man. I got like a week and a half. So by that time I was like, I already gained about 35 pounds, and then I gained another 30 in about 2 weeks.
Whoa, holy moly.
Yeah.
And
Kept eating.
And so then like the first scene I was like joking around about, with Matt and stuff, but it was the funeral scene, right? So then, when we're in, like, Bao just let the cameras roll like forever. So we just started riffing, and then Matt came with these great fat jokes, and I'm just like, Bao, okay. Cool. No, but it was so much fun. Yeah.
And to go from
that day is still a day that I really that day I still have to tell that give Ron credit for that, because that was my first day, and I was so nervous, and we did a bunch of improv with the camera on. I think it was on Ron first, and he mopped the floor with me with insults. He was kicking my ass, and I was so embarrassed because I couldn't think of anything because I was really nervous. And so we broke for lunch, and I was like, you can't do that. You can't not insult him. You have to think of something funny. And so I spent the whole lunch hour like by myself thinking, yeah, I'll call him fat, and I'll call him a Mr. Rogers, and I'll call him this. So I appreciate that Val let that go, and also that Ron like raised the bar. I had to hit the ground running right off the bat. So
you're freaking hilarious, man.
That was the best. That was the best.
And then you guys have spoken quite a bit about the family aspect of this, and there is unfortunately a family member who is no longer with us. Talk a bit about John Nolan and his contributions to the film.
John Nolan was our general. He was our first assistant director, which is kind of basically, the man who runs the set, or kind of runs the schedule, makes sure all the trains run on time, coordinates everything so that everything lands perfectly when the camera is about to roll, and then some. So we owe John so much to be able to even make this film and to get this film in on time and in what we had to do. But unfortunately, he had contracted COVID earlier this month, and he went into a hospital and basically had passed away due to the complications. So just last Wednesday, we got the news about that. So that's been heavy on our hearts. We do want to celebrate everyone's hard work, but we do have him in our hearts for sure as well, and lifting him up and his family.
And everyone else, your memories of working with John?
John was fantastic. Yeah. Go ahead, Ron.
I worked with John back in 2003. That was the last time I saw him, and it was just a blessing to catch up with him. And John was awesome. The whole AD department was incredible. I mean everyone on the crew, from production design to makeup to our producers. It was a great crew. And John, yeah, man, he cracked the whip, and I didn't think that was going to be the last time I was going to see him. Actually, so.
I'll give you a story about John. I brought a hypervolt because I knew we were going to need it, right? And everybody was using it. All the fighters, everybody was using it. And John was like, so all the fighters are like passing it around, and he taps me on the shoulder. Can I get that frame? I'm like, dude, you're like an AD. What are you doing? Like, but he's so physical with the way he's rallying. He's so physical. Like, he would actually act out scenes. I told him, I said, you want to act. You keep calling yourself an AD, but you're doing far more than you need. After we wrapped, I had a friend who had him for wholesale, because I was trying to get everybody's whatever they needed so that we could just keep rolling. And he calls me and he's like, you still got some hypervolts? And I was like, yeah. He's like, I'm in LA doing this thing. I'm gonna come by your house. I want to buy one. And I'm thinking, all right, bro, sure. So I give him my address. He jumped in somebody's truck, rolls over to my crib. Now, I love these two dudes. I've been basically in this one. They ain't been in my spot yet. But John came to the spot, right? Pre-pandemic. He gets out the car and comes to my fence. And my dad's and my son's like, some strangers at the fence. And I'm like, really? Yeah, he's kind of cool. So by this time, I guess John had already warmed him up. So I come outside, he's standing next to the fence. He comes in and I'm like, what are you telling my son, bro? And he's like, I got kids. So this 20-second exchange turns into like a 2-hour, like, I don't got 2 hours. I mean, it just happened. And as he was leaving, he says, when I get home, I'm calling to get another one. Because my son is basically wants this one. If that dude didn't get home and text me up on the phone and be like, yo, send me another one. I'm like, bro, I'm about to start kicking you some money. And it was funny because we were laughing about like taking care of ourselves. That's what the Hyperboat was all about. It's like all the fashion, the election, you know, these fights for all that we did to entertain, it can really be, first of all, you know, getting yourself ready to do it it's soft tissue. Like your body is your body. And if you put 60 pounds on it and then you do things you used to do when you were 60 pounds lighter, it's gonna take a toll on you. Like, it's just amazing to be part of something, feeling it and being like I remember one time I slipped, I had some oil on my arms and something happened where I slipped, put my hand on the ground, and now there was an oil spot there. So I went to run to shoot and my foot gave way. It was just like, everybody just got quiet for about 5 seconds. I thought to myself, Hyperboat. I got up, they said, you ready? I said, let's go. So we just kept rolling, but my body. So like, he calls me from Dallas and he orders another one. And I'm like, dude, I'm gonna have to just like really take you out when you come back down. And he was like, yeah, we should get together. And it just never occurred to me that would be like the last time we'd have an exchange with him. But then I watched this movie and like, it's like with Chadwick, you know, if you're gonna go out and it's like, may God use all the talent you have in you. And then when there's none left, take you home. Like if this were the last piece of art Mykel, Shannon, Jenkins was a part of, I could rest peacefully. Because art, you know, so it just made me feel to know that like when he speaks his name, they'll speak of this as one of the last pieces he put his hands on it, and it came out spectacular. So like, you know, it's all artists can ask for, is that what he leaves here represents his essence, his work, his ethic, and I think he's looking down on us, and you know, I'm not really sad about it. I feel good about it because I know he's looking down. I believe in that, and I just think he knows he'll live forever. Because this is a family film that everyone can enjoy. My daughter doesn't like martial arts. She's non-violent. You know, she's Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter. He just loaned her to. She was watching this movie, like, she just loved it because of the heart, because of the spirit, because Ken and Val took the time to tell the story from a perspective that you don't have to just love martial arts. First of all, martial arts, the code in martial arts is the code everywhere. It's the code on the streets, it's the code in the hood, it's the code in church. Like, what's right is right. Your word is your bond. Like, word, all that honor, that's real to everyone. I think this is one of the few films where it just poured out like decency, and like in a time when people aren't very decent with one another, like in honor and respect, and like how none of these other things that you do to preserve it mean anything if they don't have anything underneath it. And at this time when our morals are challenged, when our honor is challenged, when your word is weakening, when what you say you don't necessarily have to mean, we're fact checking, and it's like great to be reminded. You know, there was a time when you could give somebody your word on something, and then they fucking hold you accountable to it, and you held yourself accountable, and like it just that old-fashioned belief that transcends all colors, races, economic statuses, political affiliations is like, it feels good to see it work. You know what I mean? And it worked so well, so beautiful.
Yeah.
And so like, I'm just,
well, let's raise a toast. Mr. John Nolan. So grab your drinks, and we did want to raise something to him, his family, and his legacy. So salute, John.
Salute.
Hope
John.
you're proud.
Salute,
Hope we
John.
made you proud. Cheers. Rest in peace.
Rest in love, baby.
Rest in power.
So thank you all for this. We have to wrap up, but we're hoping that this is the movie doesn't have a distributor yet. It doesn't have a release date, and this is an opportunity for you, the Fantasia viewer, to make your voice heard and get the word out on this movie. You guys have social media for the movie and a lot of active accounts, so please, we ask you to talk about this movie, to let people know about this movie. It is really important at this stage in the game for this film and to help you get out there, and for friendship, and for John Nolan, and for the spirit of martial arts and everything that this movie represents. This is a movie that we really need right now, as Mykel said, and we want to make sure it gets out there. So thank you all so much for being here tonight. Thank you for letting us have the world premiere of this movie. And to those of us watching, we still have a couple more days left of movies and world premieres. I highly recommend, by the way, a film very much in the spirit of this one, our closing night film, The Legend of Baron Toa, which is on Wednesday night. So please, we hope to see you at more films. Thank you all, Paper Tigers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Fantasia. Thank you.
We hope to see you all at more films. Bon cinema.
Bon cinema.
Bon cinema.